Also tell you how the UN Security Council met as tensions soared. Russia, China and Pakistan in fact called for an immediate unconditional ceasefire across the Middle East, pushing for a draft resolution now under review. Now, Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned the bombing marked a perilous turn, urging urgent diplomacy, that is. But the US defended its actions, with Ambassador Dorothy Shea insisting Iran's nuclear ambitions had to be stopped. Now, Russia and China condemned the strikes, with Moscow accusing Washington of repeating Iraq-styled fairy tales. Now, Iran called the strikes a blatant aggression and demanded global condemnation. Now, a vote on the ceasefire resolution could come later this week, but US opposition makes its passage unlikely. But as we put things into perspective as far as the overall given situation is concerned, let's also tell you what's happening in terms of the oil prices. In fact, they eased from overnight as highs as fears of supply disruption faded after Iran's retaliation to US strikes on nuclear sites appeared limited. Now, the Brent is trading slightly above the $76 a barrel, while the WTI hovered near $74. Now, both had spiked over 5% in early trade, with Brent briefly crossing $81. Now, WTI also reached its highest level since January before pulling back. And as tensions rise, focus turns to, of course, the Strait of Hormuz as well, which is often called the world's most critical oil choke point. Any disruption could spike oil prices, raise shipping insurance costs, and jolt energy markets. Ashesha, what happens if Iran makes good on its threat? To answer that particular question, Ashesha, of course, joining me with those details. Ashesha, good evening. Over to you.
Well, yes, so Middle East produces 1/3 of global oil, and Strait of Hormuz helps in transportation of nearly 1/5 of world global oil consumption. So that's the importance of Strait of Hormuz. As you mentioned, Iran has in the past threatened to block this particular waterway, although they've never really done that. But this time around, Iran's parliament has already given a nod to block Strait of Hormuz, although it requires further approvals. As of now, there are fears that perhaps supply could be disrupted, but nothing actually has taken place. But on account of fears of supply disruption, we have seen the kind of upsurge in the oil market. So Strait of Hormuz clearly is an important waterway for transportation of oil globally, and several countries globally, from Iraq, Saudi Arabia and several other countries, rely on this particular waterway. For India, it is not going to be a major negative, because Hardeep Singh Puri has already clarified that we have enough buffer and we have diversified our sources of oil beyond Strait of Hormuz. So for India, we are not expected to see any kind of negative impact. But for the globe, if at all this or this waterway were to be blocked, then it will be a major negative for oil prices, and oil prices could surge even below above the $80 per barrel mark where it is currently trading.
Right, Ashesha, thank you for joining us with those details. But let's also tell you, amid rising concerns over crude and LNG disruption, Petroleum Minister tries to allay fear, says that they have been monitoring the situation and diversified supplies over the past few years, which will ensure supply stability. Let's listen in.
The government under the Honorable Prime Minister has been consistently and periodically reviewing the situation, including the possibility of the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. And as I have mentioned earlier, we had diversified the sources of supply, and out of the 5.5 million barrels of crude oil that India consumes daily, about 1.5 and 2 million only come through the Straits of Hormuz. We import roughly 4 million barrels through other routes. And our companies, the oil marketing companies, have enough stocks. It's very difficult to speculate on the price factor. The oil price for a long time was between 65 and 70. Then it was between 70 and 75. Today is a Sunday. When the markets open tomorrow, then the consequences of the closure of the Straits of Hormuz will be factored in. But as I've been saying for a long time, there is enough oil available in the global markets. The Modi government has, over the past several years, not only ensured the stability of supplies, but also affordability. And we will take all necessary measures to ensure that.
All right, let's also tell you how the Wall Street is doing, because it's trading flat despite heightened geopolitical tensions after the US struck 3 nuclear sites in Iran over the weekend, signaling deeper involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict. In fact, the Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 45 points or 0.1%, while the S&P 500 hovered near the flat line. You're looking at that on your screens as well. In fact, just taking you through what those numbers are also looking like for Dow Jones. It's standing at about 42,213. There's a percentage change of 6.69. There's a slight uptick of 0.02, that is. As far as the Nasdaq is concerned, it edged 0.2% lower. In fact, it's opened in red at the moment, and investors appear to shrug off the developments as oil prices rose only marginally, easing fears of major supply disruptions. Time for a quick break. Stay with us. We're going to be right back with lots more on Rush Hour. Welcome back. You're watching Rush Hour. Now, Air India has announced temporary cuts of less than 5% to its overall narrow-body flight network, the Tata Group airline said in a statement. Now, this comes, remember, amid India's aviation regulator, that is the DGCA, unleashing a comprehensive scrutiny on the carrier's overall operations following the June 12th crash of a 787 Dreamliner in Ahmedabad. Sameer Dikshit sent us this report in earlier. Let's listen to what he had to say.
It seems that the problem or the challenges with the Tata Group owned airline Air India, it is not coming to an end. On one side, the airline is facing a tough scrutiny from regulator DGCA. On the other side, the airline is forced to reduce its flight frequency from narrow body aircraft to wide body aircraft. Now, talking about the scrutiny part, so DGCA has initiated the review of Air India, its Gurugram-based headquarters, and the review or the scrutiny will be done on various parameters. The first one is the aircraft that the airline is having. So how far the aircraft records are being maintained, the airworthiness of the aircraft. In addition to this, the cabin crew, the pilots, their duty timings, the rostering of the staff, and also the training of the cabin crew or the pilots. These all important things will be reviewed by the regulator. In addition to this, DGCA has also asked its inspector to provide the details of the safety inspections or the audits done since 2024 of Air India. So that sort of detailed scrutiny the airline is facing. On the other side, the airline is forced to reduce its flight frequency for multiple reasons. On international side, majorly it is because of the global turmoil. On Sunday, Air India has announced that they are going to reduce the flight operations of narrow-body aircraft by around 5%. This means that 118 weekly flights are going to be reduced. It is going to be impacted, and on 19 routes, the flight frequency it is going to be reduced. And on 3 routes, it is being temporarily suspended. On international routes, especially to Europe and America, the wide-body aircraft, the flight frequency has been reduced. So definitely, Air India is facing a lot of tough time, and they are looking for some glorious days ahead when all these things will be passed on.
All right, moving on. Tensions are rising at Hyundai Motor India's Chennai plant as the CITU-backed Hyundai Motor India Employees Union has threatened protest action if it continues to be excluded from the ongoing wage negotiations. In fact, let's tell you that the union claims majority support from 1,356 of the 2,420 workers and are demanding official recognition from the automaker. In fact, while speaking to ET Now, E. Muthukumar stated that they have submitted the charter and met the Additional Commissioner of Labour. He is in fact CITU's secretary, and they have objected to Hyundai holding talks only with the United Union of Hyundai Employees. Now, in its official response to ET Now, Hyundai Motor India said it's currently negotiating with UUHE, the union that is recognized by the Tamil Nadu Labour Department, and clarified that long-term wage settlements follow an industry standard multi-round process. That is, as far as the claim of HMIEU is concerned, the company company also said to ET Now that it is an unrecognized minority union, and in the lieu of the ongoing litigation before the court, the company cannot comment on any matters which are sub judice. Now, Hyundai further stated it remains focused on reaching a mutually beneficial outcome. Remember, this dispute has come in the wake of recent CITU-backed strikes across Tamil Nadu's industrial belt, and the matter of union recognition is currently before the Madras High Court. Alright, let's move on from that and tell you how Aditya Birla Lifestyle demerges from Aditya Birla Fashion and lists on the bourses with an eye on value unlocking and demanding fair valuations. In fact, Chairman K.M. Birla says it marks the scale of opportunity for the industry. MD Ashish Dikshit shares the company's growth roadmap. Let's listen into it.
Over next 5 years, we look to double our footprint, which means grow our network that much as well as revenues by that amount.
How are you looking to strengthen some of your brands, like say Peter England is there, Reebok is there, American Eagle? How are you looking to build the brand presence for these?
So we have brands which have proven formula over a long period of time. These brands have grown through 2.5 decades as consumers have changed, channels have shifted, and they have contemporized themselves at all periods of time. We also have emerging portfolio of businesses which are relatively new to our portfolio, whether it is Reebok or the innerwear business as well as the American Eagle business. And I think clearly they have a larger runway and faster growth possibility for them. One of the reasons for lifestyle brands particularly and the LBL portfolio, which will give new impetus and thrust, is really the capital. It's a very, as you know, it's a very strong free cash flow generating business with very high ROC. We now have that capital available for these businesses to grow themselves. In immediate terms, next 1 or 2 years, you will see far more rapid expansion of retail network. We have spoken about 300 plus store addition in this year itself. And I think therefore in next 2-3 years, the growth acceleration will be driven by footprint expansion, but over a period of time, brand extensions, new categories, and organic growth of the market itself will drive the business forward.
All right, moving on, D Street starts the week in red, and Nifty closed below the 25,000 mark, and it was mainly dragged by Infosys and HCL Tech. Let's tell you, in the broader markets, both Nifty mid-cap and small-cap outperformed the benchmark, advancing for the second consecutive session. Now, sectorally, although Nifty Metal recovered 1.5% off day's low, but other than that, most of the major sectoral indices were in red. Nifty Auto also snapped the 3-session gaining streak. As far as Nifty Bank also closed in the red below the 56,100 mark. And Nifty IT was the top sectoral loser, down 1.5%. All constituents of the IT index closed in red in today's trading session. Now, the BSE Sensex reshuffle has become effective from June 23rd, with Trent and BEL entering the index, replacing Nestle and IndusInd in bank. Let's look at the estimated inflows and outflows. In fact, Rabinder is here with all the particulars. Rabinder, good evening. Over to you.
Well, as earlier, BSE has announced reshuffle of Sensex index, which will be effect from 23rd June 2025, and the Trent and BEL will enter the Sensex index with effect from 23rd June. And as per Nuvama alternate, together this addition are expected to trigger a $708 million in passive inflow, and BL could receive $378 million, and Trent could receive an inflow of $330 million. And while Nestle India and IndusInd Bank will exclude from Sensex index, and Nestle India is likely to see outflow of $230 million, and IndusInd Bank may see outflow of $145 million. And among other changes, Ultratech Cement will see a marginal weight increase with estimated inflow of $4 million. Meanwhile, HDFC Bank, Bharti Airtel, Reliance Industry, ICICI Bank, Infosys, Sun Pharma, L&T and ITC are expected to see a minor weight reduction, possibly resulting in the limited passive flow. Whereas HDFC Bank reduced weight in the BSE Sensex will result into outflow of $46 million. And it is followed by the Bharti Airtel, which will report outflow of $45 million. And L&T weightage reduction in the Sensex will set to result in the outflow of $14 million, while ITC and TCS outflow are estimated at $13 million and $12 million respectively. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Rush Hour. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.